My boss fired me for leaking secrets to our competitor, but my IT tracking code exposed the real mole. Picture this: a Tuesday morning in late October, the kind of morning where the sky looks like someone forgot to charge the sun overnight. Gray, flat, the kind of day where nothing good happens. I had just grabbed my third cup of coffee, not because I was tired, because I was anxious. You ever get that feeling in your gut, like something is about to go very, very wrong, but you can't put your finger on it? Yeah, that was me, standing there in the break room, staring at the microwave like it owed me money. My name is Marcus, 32 years old, senior systems analyst at a mid-sized tech firm called Nexacore Solutions. We built enterprise software for logistics companies. Boring stuff, right? Supply chain management, inventory tracking, the kind of software that makes trucks show up on time and warehouses not catch fire. But here's the thing about boring software. It pays really, really well. And when money is involved, people get weird, really weird. I had been at Nexacore for 4 years. 4 years of late nights. 4 years of fixing bugs that nobody else could find. 4 years of being the guy who actually read the error logs instead of just restarting the server and hoping for the best. And in those 4 years, I had built something nobody knew about, not my coworkers, not my manager, definitely not the executives, a tracking system, a digital breadcrumb trail embedded deep in our code base, like a silent witness, watching every keystroke, every file access, every email attachment, every login from every device. Why did I build it? Because I'm paranoid. Because I've seen too many movies. Because my dad used to say, Marcus, in this world, you either have receipts or you have regrets. And regrets don't pay the rent. So I had receipts, or at least I thought I did. The morning started normal enough. I walked past the front desk, waved at Brenda, our receptionist, who was already on her third energy drink and looked like she was vibrating at a frequency only dogs could hear. I swiped my badge. The elevator dinged. 4th floor. My desk, 2 monitors, a keyboard that had seen better days, and a sticky note on my monitor that said, "Call it about printer on 3, which I had been ignoring for 3 weeks. I sat down, opened my laptop, and that's when I saw it, an email from the CEO, Mark Harrison. Subject line, urgent meeting required. Conference room B 9 a.m. 9 a.m. That was in 20 minutes, and the email wasn't addressed to just me. It was addressed to me, my manager, Derek, and someone from legal. Someone named Patricia Chen, legal, at 9 in the morning on a Tuesday. My stomach did that thing again, that flip, that drop, like when you're on a roller coaster and you crest the top of the hill, and for 1 second, one tiny second, you are weightless, and you just know that the fall is coming. I checked my calendar. Nothing scheduled, no warnings, no hints. Just this email, dropped into my inbox like a grenade with the pin already pulled. I grabbed my coffee, took a sip. It was cold now. Of course it was cold. Story of my life. Always drinking cold coffee. Always running late. Always missing the moment when things were still warm and good. I walked to conference room B, the long hallway. The gray carpet that had seen 1,000 anxious footsteps. The fluorescent lights that hummed like they were keeping a secret. The door was closed. I knocked. A voice from inside. "Come in." I pushed the door open. And there they were, Derek, my manager, sitting at the head of the table, looking like he had just swallowed something sour. Patricia Chen, legal. A woman in her 50s with glasses that made her look like she could see through your soul. And 2 other people I didn't recognize. A man in a suit that cost more than my car, and a woman with a tablet typing furiously like she was documenting every breath I took. "Marcus," Derek said, not "Hey Marcus, good morning," not "Thanks for coming," just Marcus, flat, cold, the way you say someone's name when you're about to fire them. "Have a seat," Patricia said. She gestured to the chair across from them, the chair that faced the window, the chair where the light hit your face and made you squint and made you look guilty, even if you weren't. I sat. Do you know why you're here? Derek asked. And I thought about all the reasons I might be in this room. The printer I never fixed, the project that was 2 days late, the time I accidentally sent an email to the entire company instead of just my team with a meme about how meetings could have been emails. But no, this felt different. This felt heavy. This felt like the kind of meeting where they don't let you keep your laptop. I don't know, I said, and my voice cracked, just a little. Just enough to make me sound like a kid who got caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Derek slid a folder across the table. It landed in front of me with a soft thud, like a body hitting the ground. Open it, he said. I opened it, and inside were screenshots. Email screenshots from my account, sent to an external address. An address I didn't recognize. An address that belonged to our biggest competitor, Meridian Logistics. The emails contained proprietary code, client lists, pricing strategies, the kind of information that could cost the company millions, the kind of information that could get someone arrested. These were sent from your workstation, Derek said, over the past 3 months, encrypted, routed through a VPN, but they originated from your IP, your login credentials, your two-factor authentication. I stared at the screenshots. My hands were shaking now, the coffee cup. I had forgotten I was still holding it. It was rattling against the table, like a tiny drum, like a heartbeat, fast and panicked. This isn't me, I said. I didn't send these. I don't even know this email address. meridianintel@protonmail.com. I've never seen this before. Your account sent them, Patricia said. Her voice was calm, too calm, the kind of calm that lawyers use when they know they have you. The logs are clear, your credentials, your device, your digital fingerprint. But that's impossible, I said, and I could hear my voice getting higher, getting desperate. I would never do this. I've been here 4 years. I built half the systems we use. Why would I sabotage my own work? Derek leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his eyes narrow, cold, like a snake watching a mouse. Money, he said. That's always the answer, isn't it? Money? We found a deposit in your personal account, $50,000, from an offshore shell company, traced back to Meridian. I felt like the floor had disappeared, like I was falling, but I wasn't moving. I was still in that chair, still in that room, still staring at those screenshots that looked like my emails but weren't. Because I didn't write them. I didn't send them. I didn't take any $50,000. I don't have $50,000 in my account, I said. You can check. I have $1,200, and most of that is going to rent next week. We already checked, Patricia said, and she slid another paper across the table. A bank statement with my name on it, and there it was. A deposit, $50,000, dated 3 weeks ago, from a company called Apex Consulting Group. I don't understand, I said. This isn't real. This isn't my statement. I never got this money. I never, Marcus, Derek interrupted. And his voice was hard now, sharp, like a knife. The evidence is overwhelming. The emails, the money, the pattern of access to sensitive files. We have no choice but to terminate your employment immediately. Terminate, I said. The word felt foreign, like a language I didn't speak. You're firing me? Effective immediately, Patricia said. You will be escorted from the building. You will not access any company systems. You will not contact any employees. You will not. But I didn't do this, I shouted. And my voice echoed in that small room, bounced off the glass walls, bounced back at me, making me sound crazy, making me sound guilty. We have reviewed the evidence extensively, Derek said, and he stood up, straightened his jacket. The jacket that I had seen him wear 100 times. The jacket that suddenly looked like a costume, like he was playing a role. Security will escort you to your desk to collect your personal items. Then you will leave the premises. I looked at the two people I didn't recognize, the man in the expensive suit, the woman with the tablet. They hadn't said a word. They were just watching, observing, like this was a show, like I was entertainment. Who are they? I asked. Witnesses, Patricia said, for the legal proceedings. Legal proceedings? I repeated. You're suing me? Corporate espionage is a federal crime, Derek said, and he smiled just a little, just enough to show his teeth. The authorities have been notified. You may want to contact a lawyer, if you can afford one. And then, the door opened, 2 security guards, big guys, the kind of guys who look like they eat gym memberships for breakfast. They stood on either side of me, waiting. I stood up. My legs felt like jelly, like they might collapse under me. I looked at Derek one more time, my manager, the guy who had recommended me for a promotion 6 months ago, the guy who had bought me a beer after we landed the Henderson account, the guy who was now looking at me like I was trash. You're making a mistake, I said. A huge mistake. I didn't do this, and I'm going to prove it. Derek didn't respond. He just nodded to the security guards, and they took my arms, not rough, but firm. The kind of firm that says, you can walk or we can carry you. Your choice? They walked me down the hallway, past my desk, past the cubicles where my coworkers sat, staring, whispering. Some of them looked away. Some of them looked curious. One of them, Sarah from marketing, looked like she might cry. I grabbed my jacket, my phone charger. A framed photo of my dog, Buster, who had died last year. That was it. 4 years of my life. Reduced to a jacket, a charger, and a photo of a dead dog. The security guards walked me to the elevator. Down to the lobby. Past Brenda, who didn't vibrate anymore. She just looked sad, confused, like she didn't understand what was happening. And then, I was outside, on the sidewalk, in the gray October morning. The door closed behind me. I heard the lock click, and I was alone, completely, utterly alone. I stood there for a minute, maybe 2. The wind picked up. It was cold. I was wearing a thin shirt. My jacket was in my hand. I didn't put it on. I didn't feel the cold. I felt numb. Like my body had decided that feeling things was too expensive right now. Too dangerous. I pulled out my phone, my personal phone, the one they hadn't taken, the one that wasn't company property. I opened my banking app. I typed in my password. My hands were still shaking. I could barely hit the right keys, and I looked at my balance, $1,243. Exactly what I had this morning, exactly what I had yesterday, exactly what I had last week. No $50,000, no deposit from Apex Consulting Group. Nothing. I took a screenshot, then another. Then I emailed them to myself, to my personal email, to my mom's email, to anywhere I could think of, because I knew in my gut that the bank statement they showed me was fake, manufactured, part of the setup. But how? How did someone get into my account? How did they send emails from my credentials? How did they make it look like I was the leak when I wasn't? And then I remembered the tracking system, my digital breadcrumb trail, the thing I had built 4 years ago, the thing I had almost forgotten about, the thing that was still running, still watching, still recording every single thing that happened on our network. I had installed it after a minor security scare, a phishing attempt that had almost compromised our client database. The company had brushed it off. No harm done, they said. Systems are secure, they said. But I knew better. I knew that secure was just a word people used to sleep at night. So I built my own insurance policy. A script embedded in the authentication layer, invisible to standard scans, recording every login, every file access, every email sent. Not the content, just the metadata. The when, the where, the who, the how. I had told myself it was for protection, for peace of mind. for the day when something went wrong and nobody believed me. And that day was today. I walked to my car, an old Honda Civic, 200,000 miles, a crack in the windshield that I kept meaning to fix. I sat in the driver's seat. I didn't turn the engine on. I just sat there, breathing, trying to think. I couldn't access the company network from here. They had already disabled my credentials, changed my passwords, locked me out of everything. But the tracking system, it didn't store data on company servers. It mirrored everything to an external server. A server I controlled. A server that nobody at Nexicor knew existed. I opened my laptop, the personal one, the one in my trunk. I kept it there for emergencies, for the apocalypse, for days like this. I connected to my phone's hotspot. I typed in the IP address, the password, the two-factor code from my authenticator app. And there it was, 3 years of logs, 3 years of data, 3 years of every single person who had ever touched our systems. I searched for my name, Marcus Chen, login events, file access, email sends, and I found something. Something that made my blood run cold. Over the past 3 months, there had been logins from my account, at times when I wasn't at work, at 2 in the morning, at 4 in the morning, on weekends, from IP addresses I didn't recognize, from devices I had never used. But here's the thing, the tracking system didn't just record logins, it recorded something else, something I had built in as a failsafe, a digital fingerprint, not just the username and password, but the behavior, the typing pattern, the mouse movement, the way someone navigated the system, like a signature, unique to every person. And these logins, the ones at 2 in the morning, the ones sending emails to Meridian, they didn't have my signature. They had someone else's, someone who typed faster than me, someone who used keyboard shortcuts I never used, someone who navigated the file system in a completely different way. I wasn't the leak. I had never been the leak. Someone had stolen my credentials, or cloned them, or somehow bypassed the authentication to make it look like me. But who? I dug deeper. I traced the IP addresses. They were routed through VPNs, multiple VPNs, nested like Russian dolls. But I was good at this. I had spent 4 years becoming good at this. I peeled back the layers, one by one, tracing the virtual breadcrumbs through servers in Amsterdam, Singapore, Dubai. And finally, I found the origin, an IP address, registered to a residential location, in the same city, in the same neighborhood actually. I plugged it into a reverse lookup, and the name that came back made me drop my phone. Derek Harrison, my manager, the guy who had just fired me, the guy who had looked me in the eye and told me I was a criminal. Derek Harrison, living at 427 Elm Street, using his home internet connection, at 2 in the morning, to log into my account, to send proprietary information to our competitor, to frame me for corporate espionage. But why? Why would Derek do this? He was a manager. He made good money. He had a corner office, a parking spot with his name on it. Why would he risk everything to leak company secrets and blame it on me? I sat there, in my car, in the cold, staring at that name on my screen, and I realized I didn't know the answer, but I was going to find out, because I had the logs. I had the proof. I had the digital evidence that would clear my name and bury Derek Harrison. But I also had a problem. I was locked out of the company. I was fired. I was probably being investigated by the FBI or the SEC or whatever 3-letter agency handles corporate espionage. And I had no way to get this evidence to anyone who mattered. If I went to the police, they would ask how I got this information. And I would have to admit to building an unauthorized tracking system on a corporate network, which was probably illegal. Definitely a violation of company policy, possibly a felony. If I went to the company, they wouldn't listen. They had already decided I was guilty. They had witnesses. They had documents. They had a narrative that fit perfectly. Why would they believe me now? If I went to the media, I would sound like a crazy person, a disgruntled employee, a conspiracy theorist with a grudge. I was trapped, caught between the truth and the consequences of how I found it. I put my head in my hands. The steering wheel was cold against my forehead. I could smell the old coffee in the cup holder, the French fries from last week, the faint scent of the air freshener that had stopped working months ago. And then, my phone buzzed, a text message from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "I know what they did to you. I know who really did it. Meet me at the coffee shop on 5th and Main. 2 p.m. Come alone. And Marcus, don't tell anyone." I stared at that message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the screen, my heart pounding in my chest. Who was this? How did they know? Was this a trap, another setup? Or was this my only chance to clear my name? I looked at the time on my dashboard. 11:30. 2 p.m. was 2.5 hours away. I had a choice to make. I could go home, pack a bag, drive to Mexico, start over with a new name and a new life. Or I could go to that coffee shop, face whatever was waiting for me, and fight. I thought about my dad again, his voice in my head. "Marcus, in this world, you either have receipts or you have regrets." I had receipts, but I also had a whole lot of questions and a whole lot of fear. I started the car. The engine coughed, then caught. I pulled out of the parking lot. I didn't know where I was going yet, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going to Mexico. Not yet. The coffee shop on 5th and Main. It was one of those places that tried too hard to be cool. Exposed brick walls, Edison bulb lights, a chalkboard menu with prices written in cursive that looked like a doctor's handwriting. The kind of place where people ordered a cortado with oat milk and a dash of cinnamon instead of just saying coffee. I got there at 1:45, 15 minutes early, because I'm paranoid, because I wanted to see who was watching, because I had learned in the past 4 hours that trust was a luxury I couldn't afford. I ordered a black coffee, the cheapest thing on the menu, because I was unemployed now. Because $50,000 had appeared and disappeared from a bank account with my name on it. Because my life was falling apart and I needed to save every penny for the lawyer I couldn't afford. I sat in the corner, back to the wall, facing the door, the way my dad taught me. Always know your exits, Marcus. In a room, in a relationship, in a job. Always know how to get out. I sipped my coffee. It was too hot. It burned my tongue. I didn't care. The pain kept me alert, kept me focused, kept me from thinking about the fact that I was waiting for a stranger who claimed to know the truth about why my life had exploded. At 1:55, the door opened and a woman walked in. She was maybe 40, dark hair, gray at the temples, the kind of gray that looked intentional, stylish. She wore a blazer that fit perfectly, not too tight, not too loose. The kind of blazer that said, "I have money, but I don't need to show it off." She looked around. Her eyes found mine, and she walked straight to my table. "Marcus?" she asked. "Who's asking?" She sat down, without waiting for an invitation. She placed her bag on the chair next to her. A leather bag, expensive, scuffed at the edges, well used. "My name is Elena Voss," she said. "I used to work at Nexacor 3 years ago, before you started." I studied her face. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. Maybe I had seen her in old company photos. Maybe on the former employee's wall of shame that nobody talked about. "Used to work there?" I asked. "What happened?" "I was fired," she said, and her voice was flat, matter of fact, like she was talking about the weather. "For the same reason you were, corporate espionage, leaking secrets to Meridian Logistics." My coffee cup froze halfway to my mouth. "What? Frame job," she said. "Just like yours. Fake emails. Fake bank deposits, fake evidence." I was escorted out by security, humiliated in front of my colleagues, blacklisted from the industry. My husband left me. I lost my house, everything. I set my cup down. My hand was shaking again. Why are you telling me this? Because, she said, and she leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. It wasn't Derek who framed you. Derek is just the puppet. The person pulling the strings is someone much higher up, much more dangerous. Who? Elena looked around, like she was checking for listeners, like the walls had ears, and maybe they did. Maybe I was being paranoid, or maybe I was finally being careful enough. Mark Harrison, she said. The CEO? I laughed. I couldn't help it. It was a nervous laugh. A disbelieving laugh. The kind of laugh you make when someone tells you something so absurd that your brain short-circuits. The CEO, I said. Mark Harrison. The guy who sends company-wide emails about our Nexacore family and transparency and integrity. That guy, Elena said, and she wasn't laughing. He's been running a side operation for years, a shell company. Meridian Logistics isn't a competitor, Marcus. It's a subsidiary. Owned by Harrison through a web of offshore accounts. He leaks our proprietary tech to them. They sell it under a different name. He pockets the profits. And when someone gets too close to figuring it out, he frames them, makes them the scapegoat, destroys their life so no one ever asks questions. I felt like I was in a movie. Like this couldn't be real. CEOs didn't do this. Not in real life. Not in boring tech companies in boring Midwest cities. This was Wall Street stuff. This was Hollywood stuff. This wasn't my life. But then I thought about the bank statement, the fake deposit, the perfectly manufactured evidence, the way Derek had smiled when he fired me, the way everything had been so clean, so professional, so planned. Why me? I asked. Why did he pick me? Because you were getting close, Elena said. 2 weeks ago, you ran a security audit. You found anomalies in the file access logs. You sent an email to Derek, asking about unusual after-hours activity on the client database. I remembered, vaguely. I had found something. A pattern, logins at odd hours, file downloads that didn't match any project I knew about. I had mentioned it to Derek, casually. In passing, I hadn't thought it was a big deal, just a glitch, just something to look into. You were going to figure it out, Elena said. Harrison knew that, so he got ahead of it. He made you the leak before you could find the real one. I sat back in my chair. The exposed brick was cold against my back. The Edison bulb above me flickered. Once. Twice. Like it was trying to send me a message in Morse code. How do you know all this? I asked. Because I was the one before you, she said. 3 years ago, I was the head of internal audit. I found irregularities in the financials, offshore transfers that didn't make sense. I was going to escalate it to the board. And then, boom, framed, fired, destroyed. And you've just been, what, sitting on this information for 3 years? I've been building a case, she said, and she reached into her bag, pulled out a folder. Thick, full of papers, financial records, shell company registrations, email trails, everything. But I couldn't do anything with it because I have no credibility. I'm the disgruntled former employee, the convicted corporate spy. Nobody believes me. She slid the folder across the table. It landed in front of me, just like the folder in the conference room this morning. But this one felt different, heavier, not with paper, with possibility. But you, she continued, you have something I don't. You have the tracking system, the logs, the digital proof that shows Derek accessing your account. That shows the real pattern of the leak. I looked at the folder, then at her. How do you know about the tracking system? She smiled, for the first time. A small, sad smile. Because I helped you build it, Marcus, 3 years ago. Before I was fired, I was your predecessor. The one who taught you everything you know about network security. You don't remember me because I was gone before you started, but I left notes, documentation, a little gift for whoever replaced me, a way to protect themselves, because I knew I knew Harrison would keep doing this, and I knew someone else would eventually be in my position. My mind was reeling. This was too much, too connected, too coincidental, like the universe was playing a prank on me. A very elaborate, very cruel prank. Why didn't you go to the authorities? I asked. The FBI, the SEC, someone? I tried, she said, and her voice cracked. Just a little, just enough to show that beneath the perfect blazer and the stylish gray hair, there was a person who had been hurt, badly. I went to the FBI. I gave them everything. And you know what they told me? Insufficient evidence. Because Harrison has connections. He donates to the right campaigns. He sits on the right boards. He plays golf with the right people. The case was buried. I was told to move on, to let it go, to be grateful I wasn't in prison. She paused, took a breath, composed herself. The crack in her voice sealed up. The mask went back on. But I didn't let it go, she said. I couldn't because he keeps doing it. He keeps destroying people, and nobody stops him. I spent 3 years of my life, building this case, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone who had the proof I needed, someone who could corroborate my story with hard data. She looked at me, her eyes intense, burning. That's you, Marcus. You have the logs, you have the technical evidence. Combined with my financial forensics, we have him, we can finally bring him down. I looked at the folder, then at my laptop bag, then at the coffee shop around us. The barista was making a latte, the foam hissing. A college student was typing on a MacBook. A couple was arguing about whose turn it was to pay. Normal people, living normal lives, while I sat in the corner, planning to take down a CEO with a folder full of papers and a laptop full of illegally obtained logs. What do you want me to do? I asked. Come with me, she said, to the SEC tomorrow morning. We file a whistleblower complaint. Together, your technical evidence plus my financial analysis. It's airtight. They can't ignore two of us. Especially not when one of us has the kind of proof that makes lawyers salivate. I thought about it. I thought about walking into a federal building, telling a government lawyer that I had built an unauthorized surveillance system on a corporate network, that I had been tracking my colleagues without their knowledge, that I had enough data to prove a conspiracy, but also enough to get myself arrested for computer crimes. I could go to prison, I said, for the tracking system, for accessing the logs after I was fired, for a dozen different things. You could, Elena said, or you could do nothing, and definitely go to prison for corporate espionage, a crime you didn't commit, framed by a man who has already destroyed your reputation, your career, and your life, which sounds worse to you. She had a point, a terrible, sharp, painful point, like a knife pressed against my throat. Either way, I was bleeding. The only question was, did I want to bleed fighting or bleeding running? I need to think about it, I said. You have until tomorrow morning, she said, and she stood up, grabbed her bag. Meet me at the federal building, 8 a.m. If you're not there, I'll understand, and I'll keep fighting alone, like I have been for 3 years. She walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Marcus, one more thing, don't go home tonight. Don't go to your apartment. Harrison knows where you live, and he knows you have the logs. He'll be looking for you, to finish what he started. And then she was gone, out the door, into the gray afternoon, leaving me with a folder full of someone else's nightmare, and a decision that would define the rest of my life. I sat there for a long time. The coffee went cold. The college student left. The couple made up and held hands. The world kept spinning, indifferent to my crisis. I opened the folder, started reading, and what I found made me realize that Elena hadn't told me everything. That this was bigger than one CEO, bigger than one company, bigger than I could have imagined. Mark Harrison wasn't just stealing from Nexacor. He was part of a network, a web of shell companies and fake competitors that spanned 5 states. Dozens of employees framed and fired, millions of dollars siphoned into offshore accounts. And at the center of it all, a man who had built an empire on the ruins of other people's lives. I was just the latest victim, the latest name on a list that was longer than I wanted to believe. I closed the folder. I looked at my phone. It was 4 p.m., 14 hours until the deadline. 14 hours to decide if I was going to be a hero or a fugitive. I got up. I walked out of the coffee shop. The gray sky had turned darker. Rain was coming. I could smell it. That electric smell. That promise of a storm. I didn't go home. Elena was right about that. I couldn't. I drove to a motel on the edge of town. The kind of place that rented by the hour or by the week. The kind of place where nobody asked questions. I paid cash, gave a fake name. Room 214, second floor, facing the parking lot. I sat on the bed. The mattress sagged. The TV had 3 channels. The bathroom had a shower with more mold than tile. I opened my laptop. I looked at the logs again, and I found something else. Something that made my blood run even colder. Derek hadn't just accessed my account. He had accessed 6 other accounts in the past year, all of them employees who had been fired for leaking information. All of them framed, all of them destroyed. But there was one account he accessed that didn't fit the pattern. An account that hadn't been fired. An account that was still active, still employed, still trusted. Patricia Chen, the lawyer from legal. The woman who had sat in that conference room this morning. The woman who had told me I was terminated, who had presented the fake evidence against me. She wasn't just a witness. She was part of it. She had accessed the evidence against me before the meeting. She had helped prepare it. She had known it was fake. And she had sat there, looking me in the eye, telling me I was a criminal, while she was the real criminal. The conspiracy went deeper than Elena knew. It wasn't just Harrison and Derek. It was the legal department. It was HR. It was the people who were supposed to protect employees from exactly this kind of abuse. I was alone, completely alone, against an entire system designed to destroy people like me. But I had the logs, I had the proof, and tomorrow morning, I had a choice. I lay back on the sagging mattress. I stared at the water-stained ceiling, and I waited for the storm. 8 a.m., the federal building, a glass tower downtown that looked like it was designed by someone who hated curves. All angles, all sharp edges, all intimidation. I stood outside, in a suit I had bought from a thrift store at 6 a.m., because I figured federal agents took you more seriously if you looked like you had your life together. It was navy blue, a little tight in the shoulders. It smelled like someone else's cologne, but it was clean, and it was professional. Elena was already there, standing by the entrance, looking nervous, looking hopeful, looking like someone who had been waiting 3 years for this moment and was terrified it would slip away. "You came," she said when she saw me. "I came," I said. "Do you have the logs?" "I have everything." We walked in together, through security, metal detectors, bag checks, the whole routine. I felt like I was at the airport, but instead of going on vacation, I was going to war. The SEC office was on the 7th floor. We took the elevator. It was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet where you can hear your own heartbeat, your own breathing, your own doubts. "There's something you need to know," I said, as the elevator climbed. "Patricia Chen, from legal, she's involved too. I found her in the logs. She accessed the fake evidence before my meeting. She knew it was manufactured." Elena's face went pale. "Patricia, are you sure?" "I have timestamps, IP addresses, digital fingerprints, I'm sure." "That changes things," she said. "If legal is compromised, then the entire internal investigation is compromised. The board, the audit committee, everyone who was supposed to provide oversight, they were all in on it." "Or some of them," I said. "We don't know how deep it goes, but it's deeper than we thought." The elevator dinged. 7th floor. The doors opened. We stepped out into a hallway of beige carpet and fluorescent lights. A reception desk, a sign that said Securities and Exchange Commission, Whistleblower Office. We approached the desk. A young woman looked up, professional, bored. The kind of bored that comes from seeing people at their most desperate every single day. "Can I help you?" "We're here to file a whistleblower complaint," Elena said. "We have evidence of securities fraud, corporate espionage, embezzlement. We need to speak with an investigator. Immediately." The receptionist's bored expression flickered, just for a second, like a glitch in a video game. Then it was back, professional, neutral. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," I said, "but we have evidence of a multi-million-dollar fraud involving a publicly traded company. And we have reason to believe that the conspiracy includes members of the company's legal and executive teams. We need to speak with someone now, before the evidence disappears, before we're both dead or in prison for crimes we didn't commit." Maybe it was the desperation in my voice. Maybe it was the thrift store suit that didn't quite fit. Maybe it was just that I had used the magic word, dead, but something in her expression changed. She picked up a phone, spoke softly, nodded, hung up. "Room 712, she said. "Agent Sarah Mitchell. She's expecting you." We walked down the hallway. Room 712, a plain door, a frosted glass window. I knocked. "Come in." We entered. Agent Sarah Mitchell was not what I expected. I expected a suit, a stern face, a badge on a chain. I got a woman in her 30s, jeans, a sweater, sneakers. She looked like she should be teaching yoga or running a bookstore, not investigating financial crimes. "Sit," she said, not unkindly, just direct. We sat. Elena placed her folder on the desk. I placed my laptop on top of it, like we were making an offering, a sacrifice to the gods of justice. "Tell me everything," Agent Mitchell said, and we did. Elena went first. The financial records, the shell companies, the offshore accounts. The pattern of framed employees over 3 years. She spoke for 20 minutes, without notes, without hesitation. Like she had rehearsed this speech 1,000 times in her head, which she probably had. Then it was my turn. I opened my laptop. I showed her the tracking system, the logs, the IP traces, the digital fingerprints. I explained how I had built it, why I had built it, what it had captured. She listened, without interrupting, without judgment. She took notes on a legal pad with a pen, old school. I liked that about her. When I finished, she was quiet for a long time. She tapped her pen against the pad, once, twice, 3 times. "This is extensive," she said finally, "and problematic." "Problematic how?" Elena asked. "Your evidence, Miss Voss, is compelling, but it's circumstantial. Financial records can be explained. Shell companies can be legal. You need a direct link, a smoking gun, something that ties Harrison personally to the fraud." "And mine?" I asked. "The logs, the digital proof?" "Yours, Mr. Chen, is more direct, but it's also, let's say, legally complicated. You built an unauthorized surveillance system on a corporate network. You accessed it after your employment was terminated. You possess proprietary data that belongs to Nexacore. Any defense attorney will argue that you obtained this evidence illegally, that you're a disgruntled employee with a grudge, that you manufactured the logs to frame your boss. But I didn't. I believe you," she said, and the way she said it, calm, certain, like she had seen this before, like she knew the difference between real pain and performed pain. "But belief isn't enough. I need something that will hold up in court, something that can't be explained away, something that ties Harrison directly to a crime, in real time." I felt the floor drop out from under me again. That roller coaster feeling, that weightless fall. We had come all this way. We had risked everything, and it wasn't enough. But Agent Mitchell continued, and she leaned forward, her voice dropping. "There might be a way if we can catch him in the act. if we can document him accessing the system, transferring funds, communicating with the shell company, in real time with federal witnesses. Then we have him, and your evidence becomes corroboration, not the whole case. How? Elena asked. Harrison is careful, Agent Mitchell said, but he's also arrogant. He thinks he's untouchable. He thinks he's already won, which means he might get sloppy. He might take risks he wouldn't normally take. She looked at me, like trying to destroy the last piece of evidence that could incriminate him. Your tracking system, Mr. Chen. He knows it exists now. He knows you have the logs. What's the one thing he needs to do to make this all go away? I thought about it. Delete the logs, wipe the server, destroy the evidence. Exactly. And if we can catch him trying to do that, if we can document him hacking into a system he claims to know nothing about, to destroy evidence he claims doesn't exist, then we have our smoking gun. You want to use me as bait, I said. It wasn't a question. I want to give him enough rope to hang himself, she corrected. And I want you to be safely out of the way when he does it. She outlined the plan. It was simple, dangerous, but simple. I would make it known. Through channels Harrison was monitoring, that I was going to release the logs to the press, that I had scheduled a meeting with a journalist, that the story would break tomorrow morning. Harrison would panic. He would try to access the tracking system, to delete the logs, to destroy the evidence before it went public. But the tracking system wasn't on Nexacore's servers anymore. I had moved it, last night, at 3 a.m., from my secret server to a federal server, controlled by the SEC. Harrison didn't know that. He would think he was deleting evidence. He would actually be creating it. Every keystroke, every command, every attempt to access the system would be recorded by federal agents, in real time, with timestamps, with IP traces, with undeniable proof that Mark Harrison, CEO of Nexacore Solutions, was trying to destroy evidence of a crime. It was a trap, a digital honey trap, and Harrison was going to walk right into it. There's one problem, I said. He won't do it himself. He'll send Derek or someone else, a fall guy. Then we catch the fall guy, Agent Mitchell said, and we offer him a deal. Testimony against Harrison in exchange for immunity. Either way, we get someone on the inside, someone who can connect the dots. I looked at Elena. She nodded, slowly, hesitantly, but she nodded. And if it doesn't work, I asked. If he doesn't take the bait, then we regroup, Agent Mitchell said. But I've been doing this a long time, Mr. Chen. Men like Harrison, they always take the bait, because they can't stand the idea of losing, of being beaten, of someone else having power over them. It's their weakness, and it's going to be their downfall. I agreed. What choice did I have? I was already ruined, already unemployed, already facing potential prison time. This was my only shot, my Hail Mary, my last stand. We spent the rest of the day preparing, setting up the trap, crafting the message that would lure Harrison in, making sure every technical detail was perfect, every legal requirement was met, every contingency was planned for. At 6 p.m., I sent the message, through an encrypted channel, to a journalist I had never met, but who Harrison would believe was real. Because Elena had spent 3 years building that journalist's credibility. A fake identity, a fake blog, a fake history of breaking corporate scandals. The message was simple. I have proof that Nexacore's CEO is running a criminal enterprise. Meeting tomorrow at 10 a.m. Full disclosure. Prepare for the story of your career. We waited. At 8 p.m., nothing. At 9 p.m., nothing. At 10 p.m., my phone buzzed. A notification from the tracking system. Someone was trying to access it, from an IP address registered to Derek Harrison's home, but it wasn't Derek. The digital fingerprint was wrong. The typing pattern was different, faster, more confident, more practiced. It was Mark Harrison, the CEO, doing his own dirty work. because he didn't trust anyone else, because he was arrogant enough to think he could get away with it, because he was desperate enough to risk everything. I watched the screen in Agent Mitchell's office. On a monitor connected to the federal server, we all watched, a team of agents, Elena, me. Harrison typed commands, tried to bypass the security, tried to delete the logs, tried to wipe the server clean. But every command was recorded. Every failed attempt was documented. Every keystroke was evidence. At 10:15, he got frustrated. He started typing faster, making mistakes, typing things he shouldn't have typed, things that incriminated him, things that admitted guilt. I need to delete this before the press gets it. Typed into a chat window he thought was private, but wasn't. Marcus Chen has everything. If this gets out, I'm finished. Typed into the same window. Tell Meridian to freeze the accounts. Move everything to the backup shell. Typed without thinking, without checking, without realizing that someone was watching. Agent Mitchell smiled, a small, fierce smile. We got him. At 10:20, she gave the signal. A team of FBI agents, already positioned outside Harrison's mansion, already monitoring his internet connection. Already ready, they moved in. We watched on a screen, bodycam footage, agents in tactical gear, breaking down the door, shouting, "FBI, freeze!" Harrison was at his computer, in a home office that looked like it cost more than my apartment building. He turned, his face pale, his eyes wide, his hands still on the keyboard. He didn't run, he didn't fight. He just sat there, looking like a man who had finally realized that the game was over, that he had lost, that all the money, all the power, all the connections in the world couldn't save him from his own arrogance. They arrested him, read him his rights, let him out in handcuffs, past his wife, past his kids, past the life he had built on lies. Derek was arrested too, at his apartment, caught trying to destroy his own computer, trying to erase his own tracks. But it was too late. The evidence was already secured. The case was already made. Patricia Chen, the lawyer, she tried to run, booked a flight to the Cayman Islands. The FBI met her at the gate, escorted her off the plane, in front of 200 passengers who had no idea they were witnessing the end of a conspiracy. In total, 17 people were arrested: executives, managers, lawyers, accountants. The entire network that Harrison had built over a decade, dismantled in one night. And me? I sat in Agent Mitchell's office, at 2 a.m, drinking bad coffee from a styrofoam cup, watching the news reports start to come in. Nexacore CEO arrested in major fraud scheme. Tech executive accused of running criminal enterprise. Whistleblowers expose corporate corruption. Elena sat next to me. She was crying. Silent tears. The kind that come from relief, from release, from 3 years of pain finally finding an exit. "You did it," she said. "We did it," I corrected. And then Agent Mitchell came back into the room. She looked tired, but satisfied, like a hunter who had finally bagged the big game. "Mr. Chen," she said, "Miss Voss, the U.S. attorney wants to speak with you about immunity, about protection, about the possibility of a reward, the SEC whistleblower program. You could be looking at a significant payout, 10 to 30% of the recovered funds, which in this case could be substantial." I didn't care about the money. Not then, maybe later, but not then. All I cared about was that my name was cleared, that the truth was out, that the people who had tried to destroy me were now facing the consequences of their own actions. "There's one thing I don't understand," I said. "Why me? Why did Harrison pick me to frame? Out of all the employees, all the people who could have been the scapegoat, why me?" Agent Mitchell was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "He didn't pick you, Mr. Chen, not specifically. He had a system, a protocol, when someone got too close, when someone asked too many questions. He activated the frame job, the fake emails, The fake deposits, the manufactured evidence. It was automated, efficient, cold. You were just the next name on the list. The next person who got too curious. The next person who had to be destroyed. I thought about that. About how close I had come. About how easily I could have been just another ruined life. Another name on Elena's list. Another victim who never got justice. But I had been paranoid. I had built the tracking system. I had kept my receipts. And in the end, that paranoia had saved me. The story broke big, national news, front page of the business section, trending on social media. Nexacore's stock plummeted. The board resigned. The company was sold for pennies on the dollar to a competitor. Not Meridian, a real competitor. One that wasn't a shell company. I got my job back, technically. They offered me my old position, with a raise, with an apology, with a promise that things would be different. I declined. I started my own company instead, a cybersecurity firm, specializing in internal threat detection, helping other companies avoid the nightmare that Nexacore had become, helping other employees protect themselves from the kind of people who would destroy them to protect their own secrets. Elena became my partner, my co-founder, my friend. We built something together, something good, something that used our pain to prevent other people's pain. The reward from the SEC came through. 18 months later, a check with more zeros than I had ever seen. We used it to fund the company, to hire people, to build something that mattered. And Derek, Harrison, Patricia Chen, they went to prison, long sentences, federal prison, the kind where you don't get early release for good behavior. The kind where you have a lot of time to think about the choices you made. I never visited them. I never wrote to them. I never thought about them. Except on one day, every year, the anniversary of the day I was fired. The day my life fell apart. The day I learned that the world was darker than I had believed, but also that I was stronger than I had known. On that day, every year, I go to a coffee shop. I order a black coffee. I sit in the corner, back to the wall, facing the door, and I remember. I remember the fear, the humiliation, the despair, the feeling of being completely alone against a system designed to destroy me. And I remember the choice. The moment when I decided not to run, not to hide, not to accept the story they had written for me, but to fight, to dig deeper, to find the truth, and to trust that the truth, no matter how hard it was to find, would eventually set me free. The moral of the story? Simple. In a world full of people who will lie to you, frame you, and destroy you to protect themselves, your only real defense is the truth, and your only real power is the willingness to fight for it. Keep your receipts, trust your gut, and never, ever let anyone tell you who you are, because the people who try to destroy you are always revealing something about themselves. Something weak, something scared, something that can't survive in the light. So shine the light, even when it's terrifying, even when it costs you everything, because in the end, the truth doesn't just set you free, it buries the liars.